Hi, this is Neil with readingcare.com, and we're going to go over this article about ancient Mayan artwork and how that tells us about the way the Mayans thought about their lives and about the world, um, both on Earth and both in outer space, where they had really complex equations that they could determine where the planets would be. You may have heard of this when people were talking about 2012 and the end of the world. That was based on a misunderstanding of the Mayan mathematics. So this article is about an aspect of that, the Mayans' relationship with mathematics, art, and the world. So we'll look at question number 1 first, okay? So remember, what I want you to do when you do these questions is read the question stem, which is this thing right here, and then translate that into a question of your own, all right? So let's see. We can guess that Zultan was overgrown with vegetation in 1920 because the Mayans... So change that into a question so it's easier to answer, and so you know what you're being asked. So it would be something like, Zultan was overgrown with vegetation. Oh, that's not a question, is it? So it would be something like, why was Zultan overgrown with vegetation? And the answer would be because the Mayans blah blah blah, okay? So why was Zultan overgrown with vegetation? Well, let's look at the paragraph, and this is an inference question, so you're going to have to make a slight guess to get it. The article's not going to say it in as many words. So we'll go to line 12. Where are you? There you are. But by the 1300s, the Mayans had disappeared, and it wasn't until 1920 that Sultan was found again. By this time, the city was overgrown with vegetation. Now, you see how I read the sentence before it, as well as the sentence that's quoted? That's really important, because sometimes the answer for a question is not going to be right in the sentence that the question quotes, okay? So why was it overgrown? Well, it seems in the sentence, the first sentence I read, that the Mayans disappeared in the 1300s, but Sultan wasn't rediscovered until 1920. Right? So that's 600 years. So what happens to a place when you leave it alone for 600 years? Stuff grows over it. So probably the answer that you would be looking for is something along the lines of because it was abandoned, because the Mayans didn't live there anymore. So if you look at letter A, had built too many reservoirs, does that sound like because the Mayans weren't there anymore? No. So that wouldn't be the answer. Let's look at B. Because they had planted huge farms, so they had enough to eat between 1300 and 1920. Well, we know that they disappeared by the 1300s, right? So that tells us that they probably didn't eat food there when they had disappeared, right? So you can get rid of B. What about C? They were too lazy to clear away the plants. Well, again, we know they've disappeared between 1300 and 1920, so it doesn't make any sense that they were too lazy because they weren't there. If you're not there, it doesn't matter if you're lazy or hardworking. Work's not going to get done. So that leaves us with D, and so that would leave us with the answer because the Mayans weren't around to clear away the plants. And that's right, they weren't there. So they couldn't clear away the plants, and the place became overgrown. Now, scroll down to question 3 right here. So after Saturno's work is done, Sultan will become a... So again, change it to a question. What will happen to Sultan after Saturno's work is done? And you scroll down to line 49, which is right near the bottom of the article. There it is. So Saturno's work in Sultan is almost done. He is busy scanning the Sultan paintings into his computer so students around the world can access and study them. When this work is completed, that's your key, okay? So it says when the work is completed, and the rest of the sentence will tell us what's going to happen. He plans to rebury the site to protect the artwork from tourists or looters. So what's he going to do? He's going to bury the place again so that tourists and looters, who are people who would steal it, can't get there, right? So you're looking for an answer like he's going to make it hard to find, right? So look at letter A, a computer factory. Now that's a silly answer, right? You don't bury something and then it magically creates computers. That's ridiculous. So you get rid of A. That's a silly answer. What about B? Sultan will become a hidden city. Well, we said he's going to bury it, right? And so if something's buried, it's not findable. So I would say that B is probably the best check. So I would say that B is probably the best guess, but let's read the other two, because there may be something even more spot on. Will it become a school? No, your school's probably not buried under the earth, and this place will not be. Look at C. Will it become a school? Now think about it. Is a place that you bury underneath rocks and dirt and vegetation a school? No. So that's probably not the right answer, right? So get rid of that. And vacation spot. Well, it says he's burying it so that tourists won't come, right? And tourists are people who go on vacation. So he doesn't want it to be a vacation spot. So tourists would not be coming there, right? So D's wrong too. That's not what it's going to be. It's going to be B, a hidden city. Now, let's look at number 4 too as our last question for this tutorial. This article would be of least interest to someone who. Now that question, you have to be careful. Even though least is in big letters, sometimes people don't look at it. So this question is asking you, who would not be interested in this article, right? So this article is about Mayans and astronomy, which is studying of the planets and stuff, and artwork and stuff like that. So it would not be interesting to someone who is not interested in any of those things, right? So would it, you're gonna basically eliminate anyone who it would be interesting to and then go from there, all right? So let's look at letter A. Someone who finds the Mayans fascinating would probably be interested in an article about the Mayans, so that's not right. Let's see, someone who is interested in archaeology. Well, this article is about archaeology, right? And sort of digging underground and finding old stuff. So it's probably not B either. Get rid of that. What about C? Someone who loves ancient art. Like I said before, it's an article about art. So someone who likes art would probably be interested in this. So it's probably not C either. That leaves us with D only, which says someone who wants to go on vacation to Central America. Because Saturno's burying this place underground, you probably wouldn't be interested in it because it's not a place where you can go visit, right? So D is probably your best answer here, so you'd choose that. Now, again, if you have any more questions, the whole tutorial is online with every question explained and every answer choice, both wrong and right, gone into in detail. And so if you have any more questions, please go to www.readingcare.com or send us an email and ask us a particular question that you don't think was answered. And look forward to talking to you tomorrow. Have a good night.